our narco-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week.
Yes.
But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting.
Yes, I see.
By a civil majority in the case of purely internal affairs.
Be quiet.
But by a 2/3 majority in the case of more...
Be quiet. I order you to be quiet. Look, you stupid bastard, you've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look. Just a flesh wound.
I don't believe I've seen such a display of courage, skill, nerve, grace, stupidity.
I'll do you for that. Oh, what? Come here. What are you going to do, bleed on me? I'm invincible.
You're a loony.
The Black Knight always triumphs.
Welcome one, welcome all, and it is that time for Roundtable Live here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be rolling on till 4 a.m. in the morning Eastern Time. New ideas, different hosts every night, different subjects every night. You never know what's going to happen right here at the Roundtable Live. King Arthur has nothing on us. We're going round and round.
Good evening. This is Noreen Helpman, Wild at Heart Roundtable Show. Revolution Radio is a listener support station, so you can become a Patreon, or you can buy things from the Zazzle store. You can, what else? I don't know. There's just ways you can donate money. Hey, anyway, if you want to donate money in whatever style you want, that's fine. Or you can go to the bottom of the page and do snail mail, make a check or money order out to Revolution Radio, send it to Terry Ackerman. Her address is in the bottom of the page. And there you go. The bottom of the site page, by the way. So, oh, thank you so much, 808. Hey, 808 filled in for AMAD earlier for the first time. So that's cool. You know what, Nick, that's like the first time I ever missed my own intro. Did I miss like a minute of it? I mean, people do this all the time, but it's kind of funny. I think I missed about a minute, right? Or I don't know.
Yeah, that's about all you missed. And
yeah.
It's the first time I remember you being late, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that weird? So 808 is in, and he was filling in for Ahmed, by the way. He did a good job for that. So that was interesting. Thank you. And hi, Dryfly. Hi to all my friends in chat, Mace139, everybody. So anyway, let me see who is with me today. Okay, I hear you now, Miss Call. Yeah, I think you tried to call too or something. Anyway, I'm here. So, okay. When Greg comes on, he gave me a whole bio here, so that should be interesting. I guess I'll wait till he texts me, or no, it's kind of, I might as well read it. Well, actually, I'll read it in a few minutes because he's not going to come on for another 20 minutes or so. Anyway, you know, Nick, I was thinking recently that maybe this whole Rittenhouse thing is kind of a psyop, huh? Something doesn't, I mean, there are some weird things with this, like for real. There are some strange things about this. And now that we got this, what is it? Driver of a car crashing into people in Wisconsin. Hello. Although I don't know what city that was in. Let me see here. What city was that in? Do you know what city? Let me look that up. Wisconsin Parade. Okay. I was going to say where this is. It's called Waukesha Christmas Parade. Oh, what kind of, let me see. I mean, I heard all about this, but I didn't hear every detail. Okay. So anyway, don't you guys think there's something funny going on here? To me. Yeah. I don't know what it is, Nick, but when I first heard this, I was like, why Wisconsin again, right? I mean, people are going to think this. Okay, Greg is ready anytime. I'm going to pull you in. So let me see. I'm gonna read your bio too while I pull you in. Okay. Let me see. I need to add people. Hello. Okay. Here we go. All right. I think Greg is coming in. How's my sound tonight? Let's see. Okay. Hello. Welcome, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Fine, fine. Thank you for coming on. Okay, listeners, this is the first time I've had Greg Fernandez Jr. come on my show. And I was introduced to him through Bill Grant, who's also a host on Revolution Radio. And I didn't know much about him, but I was very curious, and he sent me here a little bio. So I'm just going to run through your bio, Greg, because I'm admitting I don't know a lot, except that he did send me, an ebook of one of his, books that he has. So I did kind of look through that, which seemed very interesting. But I'm going to read through this so you guys can be a little more familiar with Greg. Okay, Greg Fernandez with an F Jr., not Hernandez, but Fernandez. Okay, let me see here. Okay, you are above all else a Christian. Okay, great. He enjoys writing books, songs, articles, and screenplays. Very good. Greg also has a monthly podcast called The Gray Stage Podcast, which can be downloaded from wherever you listen to, whatever venue, which is iTunes, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon Music. So that would be called The Gray Stage Podcast, The Gray Stage from WordPress.com. He has self-published 2 books. One of them is called 9/11, and I like the way he spelled it in letters, not in numbers. 9/11. And I'm going to post the stuff in chat room shortly. He has a web page. Oh, that's what I was looking for. 9/11 by Greg Fernandez. Okay, I was looking for that one. I did find his YouTube, but anyway. Then he's got the Gray Stage free download. Yeah, I'll put all this in there. I got the download to that publication. Greg is currently working on several books, including one about Kyle Rittenhouse. Very timely. Okay, good. Called Kyle Rittenhouse Questions by Greg Fernandez Jr., WordPress.com. And another about voter fraud 2020, about the presidential election of 2020, WordPress.com. He has a website, The Gray Stage, Researching David Crowley, WordPress.com. And the other is for just generic, a site called Greg Fernandez Jr. May Jesus Christ Guide Us, under the same publisher. And he has multiple YouTubes. Okay, so I only subscribed, I think, to one, Greg. Okay, this is your... Yeah, I know. I'll get to them all. The Gray Stage channel. Then you've got the Greg Fernandez Jr. channel. Okay. Then you're on Facebook, which if you still are, I'll friend you. You're on Rumble and BitChute. So there's a lot there. So,
Yes.
I will... No, you know what? You're the perfect guest, because at least I don't have to question, what's your website, or, whatever. You were prepared, and this is perfect. No, I mean, I don't usually have an issue with guests. They're pretty good about this stuff, but, you gave me more of a thorough list of information that, I can, go on upon. Anyway, Greg, I'll leave it up to you because my show is somewhat freeform. Maybe I will take callers later in the show if they request, if that's okay.
Sure.
Also, all right, cool. Also, this is up to you. Did you want to talk about the Kyle Rittenhouse case and your publishing about that, so forth, or did you want to talk about your other stuff and then go into Rittenhouse? Although I think Rittenhouse is kind of current, so it might be good to start with that. But you could throw in your whole history of how you got into researching and publishing and all that. Just before we preface into that, I don't know if you heard me earlier tell Nick that I'm kind of feeling this is sort of a psyop. I'm not. Now, please, I have to do a disclaimer to the listeners and to you and everybody. When I say the term psyop, sometimes I will say staged. However, just because I use those terms doesn't mean I am 100% sold, okay, on any one particular viewpoint, especially with such controversial and really honestly very disturbing and bizarre, events in our history here. And, just because there are whatever false flags, staged events, psyops, doesn't mean that people are not harmed, killed, etc. In other words, there is a human toll or a human effect from these things. If they're not, whether they are not what we think, but that nevertheless, even if you were to remove the factors of bodily harm, property harm, and murder, okay, whatever, if you were even to take those away, just the fact that these situations get people very divided in opinion in our country and maybe even in other countries. So, these kind of events are nevertheless very interesting. So with that, I will leave the floor up to you.
Well, thank you. I think that's a lot to cover there. I've heard this only recently in the couple of last days. I've heard the psyop angle of it, so I'm always curious with that. And I tried to look at everything obviously, and then kind of narrow it down, just kind of chip away to get to whatever the truth is. And this is definitely one of those very interesting, strange cases. And I don't know if you've been following the case since this first happened back in 2020 with all the riots and everything. It was a crazy time, right?
I've been following it. Yeah, I've been following it, but maybe not in detail, but I have been following it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think up until the trial, we really didn't know that much, right? I mean, for me, I learned so much just in watching that trial the last couple weeks. I feel like, wow, this is really, I don't say it changed my view on a couple things, but there was a lot of stuff that I just did not know. So it's kind of like we've pretty much heard what the media has said about Kyle Rittenhouse and about that whole story, but we never really got to hear his side of it. And obviously that was because he was in jail for 83 days or something like that, which I didn't even know until I watched till him speak with Tucker Carlson. And I was really frustrated about that.
I did not know he was in jail. I mean, there's a lot of I hate to say this case seems superficially, and maybe it is a simple self-defense case, but and it is in a sense, but when you hear all these strange things, like he said on Tucker Carlson, I was in jail for 83 days. See, I mean, I'm sure people that follow this case closely might have known that factor. I don't know, but that was surprising. See, so this is why it is very strange. But anyway.
Yeah, and I guess we should say juvenile hall. Maybe that's the correct term because he was 17. But juvenile hall, jail, okay, whatever you want to call it, right? We're pretty much talking about we know what we're really talking about here. So yeah, I was very frustrated with that because I've spent some time in juvie hall, and it's his experience sounded fine, but I was like, why is he there? What is he doing there? What is the whole point? I kind of felt like, and this is just my view after looking at everything, I felt like he was a target. Like they targeted him. Somebody had him as a target, and I think they wanted to kill him that night on August 25th, 2020. And then I think they wanted to kill him when he was in juvie, maybe. And I know that during the whole bond hearing, when all that came out, they wanted to know where Kyle was. Once they put him out on bond, the prosecutor kept trying to push the judge to so that they could know where Kyle was. And the judge is pretty much like, you don't need to know where Kyle is. Just worry about your case. You're building this case. There's no reason for you to know where Kyle is. I just always felt like, and unfortunately, I still feel like that. He was a target. I think he is a target. And I think just because this is over doesn't mean that he's not in any danger, really.
I would concur with that. And, people are suggesting that he sue all these major outlets, whether it be all the news, mainstream news outlets, publications, online or offline or whatever, for defamation and slander. I mean, because basically this is a case, as you know, that technically, I guess, was supposed to be not even reaching to the courtroom because of the fact that it was pretty much a self-defense, I guess, situation from the beginning. So they say generally these are not usually, they don't head to the courtroom usually. So that was a little bit unusual too, right? Right there. And I will go into the sociological or agenda-driven reasons, in my opinion, whatever, as far as why this happened, which you probably already have the same thoughts in mind, but go ahead.
No, I always love hearing people's thoughts on it because there's so many different people, so many different thoughts that I've been hearing. I think it takes a very open mind to really even take seriously that this could have been a psyop and everything like that. So I'm totally open to it. I may not agree with it right now, but I mean, I haven't really looked that deep into to the whole psyop angle. It is kind of strange, the whole timing. The case is over and all of a sudden he's on Tucker Carlson. He's already got a documentary made, may have been making it even before the case ended. So there may be a few things there that I'm kind of like, scratching my head at that I want to learn.
Yeah, I know those are fishy, but nowadays things are so high profile that we can't be surprised that people are already clambering up into the people's, juvenile hall or jail cells or wherever they are going, hey, I know you're in jail now, but let's strike a good deal. Or, I mean, no, right? It's not shocking now to see these kind of things transpire.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to have a book deal, right? I mean, there's no doubt it's going to be a big book deal, I'm thinking.
Right. I think you probably know the obvious for the kind of information, that we discuss on this kind of internet radio venue. We're somewhat alternative. We're not mainstream. So, my thoughts on this, and a lot of people too have the same thoughts with this Rittenhouse thing, is it was Kyle Rittenhouse was used, if this is what it is, he was used as an example, right? In other words, It's like, here we got a young white guy with a underage with a gun, and he's physically in the presence of a riot, okay? And so, in a normal world, whatever, okay, this would just be okay because his reasoning was to bring the gun to protect, family or friends' businesses in that area.
Protect the property,
and to clean graffiti and give first aid. So pretty much, I think we can assume he was not out to do trouble. He went there to help and not to cause trouble. And so then these 3 people that he shot in self-defense were technically part of the, quote, rioting crowd that was in Kenosha that night. So, and that's a whole nother story about why rioters, they don't generally, I'm talking, since this whole George Floyd thing happened, they don't generally get arrested or thrown in jail. Some do, I know, but not most. And, the media is our best friend because the media is part of the chaos, New World Order, globalist agenda. And, some people could call it Marxism, tyranny, whatever, globalism, whatever it is, there's trying to, this part of the agenda to create or to extrapolate something symbolic from this kind of situation and turn it into something that it isn't, which is making Kyle Rittenhouse look like a complete villain, a white supremacist, which Joe Biden said he was, okay, a few months back or something. Okay, white supremacist, rioter, he went to cause trouble. Nothing about the mainstream media is nothing about, well, this guy just whatever, blah, 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 and there it is. No, it has to be he's symbolic of a troublemaker. But there's even deeper things to that, Greg, that there's a whole agenda to make the general population of the United States, which, I'm not saying is all white, but is still somewhat majority white, to make them just vilified, to make them look like they're such a bad, white people are so bad that they're always victimizing blacks. Blacks are never wrong. I'm being very general here. And that, no white person has a right to defend themselves ever. Okay. Right. And if they do, they're bad. That's the message the mainstream media is trying to put out with this case, whether it's a psyop or not. I'm just saying that looks like it to me. But, I've had some people tell me, no, they think Rittenhouse is like a jerk and he's, bad and whatever. Okay. So I've said enough, but I just wanted you to know where I'm coming from on this. But you go ahead and, Go for it. Talk about it.
Yes. So I definitely don't think that he's a white supremacist or any of that stuff. I remember the first thing that I heard was that there was a guy who was running around shooting people at this riot. So I thought he was an actual rioter. That's what I thought was going on. And then once I looked at it, I was like, okay, wait a minute. And then when I saw the video, it was clear. So I think you're totally right when you say this looks like, if you just watch the video, it looks like a clear-cut case. Why is this guy even on trial? They're wasting so much money by putting this guy on trial. It has to be more than just, hey, this guy is running around shooting people. I do strongly think that this is tied in to Donald Trump, that it was more about him. It was more about getting, making, because all of these riots, I think, were all pretty much the real target was Donald Trump, to make him look bad. Like, look, he can't control this country, et cetera, et cetera. The streets are running crazy. We got to get him out of there. It's like they were a certain group that were holding the country hostage, and they wanted Donald Trump out. And so after they got him out, it was kind of like, okay, what do we do now? That's why it's kind of like the riots, they're not happening the way that they were back then. They really needed to make this tie between Kyle Rittenhouse and Donald Trump, and they had it because Kyle Rittenhouse was seen at a Donald Trump rally, and I forget which one, but he was seen there. During the Tucker Carlson interview that just came out, I had no idea that actually Kyle Rittenhouse says that he actually supported BLM. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't support BLM.
This is where I'm telling you, I'm feeling that that's kind of part of the psyop part. But then again, I'm not saying that's literally, I don't, maybe that's how he really feels, whatever. It's all strange, so, know.
Yeah, no, I totally think that too. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. So, but there's nothing wrong with that. I know many great people that do support BLM. They may not know exactly what BLM is. They're a Marxist group, et cetera, et cetera. You probably have, just like in many of these groups, you have really good people, and they have no idea what they're actually part of. So I kind of felt that way.
And I would also say about that too is, forgive me for interrupting you. Please. No, it's so important that I feel like I have to add to make your point even more important. Is that the history of BLM, when it first started, it was there. I think it started in Chicago, and it was created for mothers to speak up for all their, I guess, Black mothers to speak up for their children in these inner cities that have been, victims of violence or gang violence, and that's where the origins were. Fine, it sounds really great, okay, and I'd be a part of it, but then it got completely taken over by what you would call Marxists or tyrants or globalists, right? Taken over, hijacked, and completely made into something bad, right? Not something of its origin, something bad, right? So, that's kind of, so anyway, yeah.
Yeah, which we see that happen all the time, right? Somebody starts something good. It's like all of these protests, the real protests during the daytime, it's always a peaceful protest. And then at nighttime, boom, you have all these rioters, all the same cast of characters that come out who just want to just stir up trouble and stir up violence. And the peaceful protesters have to be on the front line. And they are. I shouldn't, I'm not saying that they're not, but in most cases, I believe they are. Their voices are not being heard, where they say, no, we need to keep this peaceful. We need to keep this peaceful. The media doesn't really focus on that. They want to show you riots. They want to show you streets burning. They want to show you all this stuff. And it's like, what? Like, what? Why do you want to show this? Like, the media should be on Kyle's side. The media should be like, wait a minute. If the police could do their job, if they weren't told to stand down, we wouldn't be here. As soon as Trump called in the National Guard, which none of us want. Trump didn't even want that. Nobody wants that. We don't want to see soldiers on streets. We've been hearing about that for years and years. But, once that happens, all of this stops. And then the streets are quiet. There's no more riots, et cetera, et cetera. But you wouldn't need that if the cops could just do their job. That's my view on it. If the firefighters if they were told that they could actually go in there and put out these fires, you would not have this. In any other situation, I don't think that this would happen. So for the mayor, for the governor, for all of them to sit back and let all this stuff happen, not just in this state or in this city, across the whole nation, this was happening. They were standing back, calling. They're mostly peaceful protests. They're mostly peaceful people, but they're sitting here burning everything down. These poor, low-income areas, it's always happening in those areas. It's always happening. The small business are the main target. Their businesses are gone. These people lost everything, and the cops are told to stand down and not do anything unless there is a felony. That to me is just mind-boggling. I don't understand that mentality unless you are purposely trying to take down this country, unless you are purposely trying to do these things. We may all find ourselves in a situation where Kyle found himself in. That scares me, is that our children, our children's children may have to do something similar to that. So to me, this was a big win. Kyle Rittenhouse being found not guilty was a huge win for all of us. It really says, look, we still have, there's a whole nother side. And I don't listen to what CNN, I don't even listen to what Fox News or any of these mainstream news stations. I listen to what people like you say. I listen to what, just the regular people say. I want to hear that. Because listening to those people, it's like, man, Kyle Rittenhouse is this crazy killer. I can't believe that he's running free. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Did you watch this trial? There were so many people out in that courtroom, sitting outside of that courtroom, talking about Kyle Rittenhouse this, and they're outside of the courtroom. They have not watched one day of the trial. It's right in the next room, and they can turn on ATV, they can watch it, but I mean, come on, watch the trial, listen to what this kid says, and you can hear his view in it. Sorry, I'm rambling.
No, I want you to ramble. You're my guest. I mean,
I can do it. I can ramble too much.
Yeah, that's fine. You want to know something about that? I've come to the conclusion, Greg, okay, that I really don't think it's that they can't. Well, maybe in some cases they didn't pay attention. Okay, maybe there's some of that. But I really feel part of this is them not wanting to know the truth. Seriously.
Yeah.
Because on my Facebook, I threw that out there about Rittenhouse, okay? I know I was going to get all kinds of stuff, and I think I'm saving that. It's a long thread. So many people chimed in. Yeah, most people were on Rittenhouse's side. A handful, a few were not. But when I was reading the responses to the people that were against Rittenhouse, right? Mm-hmm. They literally sounded crazy, number one. And number two, when some of us would write about very reasonable, right, conclusions about the situation with Rittenhouse, they would never respond. Like when you would try to point out a fact, right, that's part of the trial or the crime or the whatever, the incident, and they would never respond to nothing that people would write about. Here's what happened in the trial. This is nothing. Instead, they would throw out some meme, like a Nazi meme or a weird meme of some kind, or one young woman, whoever said, she said, oh God, Kyle reminds me of a perverted, creepy ex-boyfriend of mine. I'm like, whoa, okay, there's that, yeah, right? And then there was another female that said, oh, that bitch was running around with his gun. I'm like, whoa. And then, some of the men were saying strange things about, I'm telling you, I think whether this is a psyop or this or that or what, this thing you could see people's colors, right? You could see their thinking and what they believe is real and true and stuff in these kind of responses.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Because at the very least, you can say, I don't know, right? Or I need to look at it, or maybe it's a psyop or whatever. But they're just straight out denying everything that was being said about the trial. Literally. No response. And just throwing out attacks. It's all gaslighting, ad hominem attacks at people.
It's sad.
It would be like you coming on my show. Yeah, it'd be like you coming on my show. You give me a bio, and I just read, right? Mm-hmm. And instead of dealing with the facts of the bio, I twist it on the air and say, well, Oh, he wrote this? I don't know about that. I don't know anything about that. And it sounds really bad to me. Why would someone, write something like that? This Greg Fernandez, whoa, like what kind of person is he to write that? I mean, this is a kind of formulations in their brain. Like just taking a person, they just project onto, say, for example, Kyle Rittenhouse. Bad, 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 right? And I do believe, Greg, this is a form of because a lot of these people are American, but not necessarily. It doesn't have to be an American person, okay? But these kind of people are, I think they're anti-community. They virtue signal to make themselves seem like they're so caring and compassionate, but really, they sound like they're mean and not very nice. But anyway, go ahead. Okay.
No, you're right. No, you're definitely right, and that's. I'm scared that a lot of children are kind of growing up in that and thinking that too. It's like, well, you're kind of nicey. You're not nice. You're not a nice person. You're nicey, and you're just kind of like acting like you're nice, but then you throw in jabs, and you always have to belittle people to get people down, to bring them down to your level. It's like the theory where misery loves to have company kind of thing. And it's like, wow, they're just really jabbing and jabbing. And they find these little things and they hold on to them, not looking at, okay, well, let's look at what really happened in this case. When did the guy fire shots? Who did he fire at? And why did he fire at? So the whole Rosenbaum thing, the very first guy, the prosecutor, it was laughable. The prosecutor was saying that Kyle Rittenhouse was chasing Rosenbaum. I mean, that is just the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in this case. Then when I learned that Kyle did actually not even fire the very first shot, I was shocked. There was a third guy, this guy named Joshua Minsky. He fires the first shot as Kyle is running. I didn't know that until this trial, and I've seen the videos. I've been watching the videos for years, for 1 year. But when that came up in the trial, I was like, wait a minute, who is this guy? And you start looking into him. He's a felon. I think he's being charged now. It's like, what is the prosecution doing about that guy that fired the very first shot? If you're running from somebody and you hear a shot from behind you, and there's nowhere for you to go. You run into a crowd where there's cars. You have nowhere to go. This crazy guy is chasing you that's already threatened you twice. You turn around and you face him. You don't know if he has a gun or if he has anything. The guy reaches for your gun. You fire 4 shots. And then you go back around. You circle back around and try to help that same guy. I mean, the video is just very clear. And that's just the very first, shot. So this guy who fires the first shot, it turns out he claims somebody stole his gun. So they don't have that gun, because even after Kyle fires his 4 shots, there's 3 other unknown shots. So where did those 3 other unknown shots come from? Who else is firing in that area? Why are they firing? What are they firing at? Nothing hits Kyle. Nothing goes next to Kyle. So the whole thing is really, really odd. The fact that Kyle was even there, he gets a call from his friend, Dominic Black, and Dominic Black tells him to go to that Car Source parking lot.
Do you think he set him up or no?
I don't like to accuse people, of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can only go by what we know. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's something weird there. I'll say that there's something weird there.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because like I said, there are people commenting. I have a guest who's a friend of mine. Well, he's become a friend, but he's been on my show a couple of times, Robert Phoenix, and he has a whole series of videos, and he's an astrologer. But anyway, he recently made like a video about where he suspected there were strange things about this whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing. I don't mean like from like a bizarre point like those other people, but just from his analysis. And then I just asked you about this guy, but Dominic Black, who knows, right?
Right.
It just, everything seems almost like, why, like you were saying, why was he there at that spot? But then again, when there's a riot going on, there's all kinds of trouble going on, right? True. So it's almost like, yeah, it's just
true. But he was with another guy named Ryan Balch. So Ryan Balch is with Kyle the whole night. Because when this first came up, I was like, what? How the hell did this guy get by himself? There's no way that he is going to end up by himself. You're talking about Ryan Balch that was with him pretty much that whole night. And they get separated at some point right before Kyle gets this this call. And it turns out Ryan Balch is very close to where Kyle is this whole time. There's one video that shows they're within feet of each other and they don't see each other. It's really odd stuff there. But Ryan Balch is also a military soldier, so he knows not to leave anybody behind. But anyways, whatever. That things can happen like that. I've never been in a spot like that. I guess it's possible. Obviously, it must be possible that you can find yourself where you're supposed to be watching this young kid, and all of a sudden he disappears. You're over here, and whatever happened, we can speculate on it definitely. But somehow they get separated from this guy, this trained soldier. To me, that when I found out that Ryan Balch was a trained soldier, I thought that was kind of odd. Then there's supposed to be this other guy that is with them. He's also a soldier, and he disappears somewhere too.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like they're supposed to be with them. Where do these guys go? Like what? I don't know. But there are people that are coming up to Ryan Balch and to Kyle that are asking for help. So it's possible they may have distracted them to kind of, hey, let's separate these guys. I'll go talk to Kyle. You go talk to him. This lady did approach Ryan Balch and was trying to get into a pro-gun, anti-gun debate with Balch. And that's when Balch got separated from Kyle Rittenhouse. So was she purposely doing that, or was it just a coincidence?
That's an interesting question. And this whole issue too, or this case has turned into a gun rights topic as well, right? That's that factor.
You're right.
I have to say that the media, we're so shocked by all their mind control tactics, but my God, they just they're unbelievable. The media, I heard right before that verdict was read during the day, I would hear. I don't really watch TV, but I take care of my mom, and she watches it, right? So I'm always passing by, the news, which I can't stand news on TV.
That must be hard for you to watch.
Oh, God. I mean, I'm in earshot in the kitchen, and she's got that thing on, and sometimes I yell at the TV. She knows it. Especially the constant, and I don't use the V word on here. I say the jab or something, right?
Okay.
The constant promotion, 24/7 of the jab. Go get your job. I mean, really, it's just whatever. Anyway, so the day of that verdict, before they were going to read it, that stupid news was saying, Kyle Rittenhouse, he is in trial right now, and he's sitting with a trial of. I mean, the jury, they pointed out the jury. They didn't have to, but they did. They pointed it out saying a jury of white people. What? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I wish I could have said verbatim how they said it, but they wanted to make sure that the people watching heard them say, Kyle Rittenhouse is being tried. I think they said Kyle Rittenhouse being tried by a jury of, I don't know if they said the number 8 or of white people.
Wow.
Okay, according to the history of juries, they're usually a jury of your peers. Generally, nobody really questions too much, right? If the person's white, mostly whites. If it's a black person, a lot of black, right? Generally, for a jury. So what's the point of them staying white? The first thing that came to mind is, because they want to make it look like Kyle's a white supremacist. And hint, white people, are going to be his jury, hint. Well, that means SHIT to me, right? Because you are tried by a jury of your peers. What are they trying to imply? So that's very, very underhanded and unethical tactics. But anyway, enough of that. So whatever. Now
definitely.
We know. It's just.
Yeah, I mean that it's like they're pretty much saying, hey, we know Kyle's not going to be found guilty, and here's why. Because he's white, they're white, and all white people are basically bad, is what they're trying to say.
Which is a very dangerous dangerous thing to do in our
Yes, it
society.
is. It's something that I learned as a kid. You know, looking back, going to school, it was kind of that same thing. Where I grew up, where I lived, it was pretty much that same way. It was like white people are bad, you know, everybody else is good. We're the good guys, but it's okay for us to go and bully them. Black people can't be racist. Only white people can be racist, and we're justified because of what they've done in the past, et cetera, et cetera. It's just total BS. I mean,
Can
you know,
what was the ethnic makeup of your school, or did you grow up in the West Coast, East Coast, or I don't know.
I'm on the West Coast, so I grew up in the East Bay, next to in California, so next to San Francisco, in that area. So yeah, you know, there
I'm
was.
Southern California, but you're up there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But
Yeah, so
you're
so you probably grew up in the same type of thing where, you know, they're teaching you that stuff. White people are bad.
No, actually, well, no, mine is
No?
complicated.
Okay, good.
Well, no, because just let me just say what was going on here was I might be a little bit older than you anyway, but in here I grew up in Orange County, right? Okay, next to LA, next to Long Beach, Orange County. But Orange County, well, then was a little bit different than now. But my school was slightly more white, but it wasn't white in the terms of, oh, everybody's white. No, it was more like, you know, it's California. You're never going to have an all white school anyway. So it was like white, but then you had like a percentage of, let me see how many. We had a lot of Asian and Hispanic, and then, but the blacks were much less in those days. Okay. So I don't know, maybe it was 20%, you know, whatever, Hispanic, 25, you know, but so our school wasn't really about racial stuff too much, but I know my friend grew up in, not LA City, but just outside of it. And that was more working class and different, right? So your school was what? Was it more Hispanic or Asian, since it's in the
It was a
East Bay?
very mixed. It was really mixed. Yeah, and I kind of think our school was kind of the same thing. We didn't care. I didn't care if my friends were black, if they were white, if they were white. We didn't worry about any of that. Were they a good person or were they not? So yeah, and I think because of where I grew up, which was in Castro Valley, and I went to Castro Valley High, which is one of the most diverse high schools, I would think. But the Cowboys would be the ones that would get picked on. And back then it was like, oh, it was kind of funny. Oh, the guy's wearing a cowboy hat. Now I'm like, wait a minute, you know, there's a history there. There's a lineage there. There's a lot of things. And we, you know, it's okay to have a Mexican who's wearing a poncho, wearing all that stuff. That's okay. But if a white guy wants to wear, you know, a cowboy boots and stuff, people are kind of, and so it was kind of interesting. And there would be skaters here. So the Castro Valley High that I went to was very cool. It was very open. Everybody had their own cliques, their own groups, but it wasn't really racial. There would be like some of the racial riots that would pop up every now and then. You know, somebody would get hurt and it become a black against the Mexican thing. It was never the whites, though. The whites were kind of always just doing their own thing, it kind of seemed like. But when I was growing up, we didn't care about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't concerned about that. But some of the history books that we would read, some of the stuff that we would read was always about the black people being held down, about the Spanish, the Mexican people being held down. And that stuff always rubbed me the wrong way. And it was like, for me, it didn't. I think what they wanted is they wanted me to then hate white people. It didn't work like that.
It's all agenda driven.
Yeah.
You know. And I think, Greg, I mean, I don't know your last name. I'm assuming you're Hispanic. I don't know. I mean, you know, Fernandez, maybe you are or not. But I just think that people, see, I think me and you, right? Because we grew up, well, I grew up more in a middle class. I'm not, look, this is not about working class, middle class. But I'm talking about the kind of, because we're talking about ethnicity with this Rittenhouse case, obviously, okay? So you and I grew up with more like kind of diverse, like here is diverse, although more white when I was growing up, but diverse. And, you know, it was more about money or looks, not so much about race. But, and then, you know, you grew up around diverse people in the Castro Valley. And so I think you and I have a perspective because of how we grew up that we know what the real deal is with people. right? That's why you felt weird about the some of the topics in school, because you're like, why are they trying to get me to think a certain way, right? They're trying to politicize you, and you and I can recognize these things, right? Whereas I have a friend who, well, he's from England, but he's not even about that. But he's just pulled all into this stuff, about Rittenhouse being bad and it's white supremacy. And I'm like, you're white. What the hell are you talking about? what is this? So you know what I mean? Like, so you and I can know, like, what the real deal was people I'm talking specifically about the ethnic thing, not about their money or their education, but their ethnic thing. So, but people that, I don't know, some people grew up that way too, but they still got indoctrinated, right, into the ethnic, because the whole history thing, and everybody's, the white people are oppressing everybody. It is really disturbing to me, Greg, because I grew up with all kinds of people like you did, so I don't have a particular hatred towards whites or blacks or Asians, or I'm half Asian, whatever, Jewish, I'm all that stuff. So I didn't grow up with hatred. But now I hate the left or whatever. I hate the tyrants or the people who support this type of, I think it's cruelty. It's racism, oppression, and cruelty. And they think they're virtuous. This is what's really disgusting, Yeah.
Yep. And that's kind of the thing. We used to watch the movie Roots, or the TV series or whatever.
Right.
And it was so sad. It was so sad. And it was like, there's two ways that you could say, you know what, that stuff was bad, but we made it through that. Now we have an opportunity. Look at what, the whole civil rights thing. Do you really think that the civil rights people, the people that did all that they fought for all that, do you really think they're looking at buildings being burned down, people still going through the whole racial thing? Now we have this thing where instead of the blacks are bad, now the whites are bad. Do you really think they fought all those years so that we could do this? So it gives us a free pass to just be racist, to be violent towards white people. And that's my fears. That's kind of what I'm seeing so much out here. And it's not even just white people. And now, like you said, it's really more about, hey, you're on our side, and when it became the Marxist side, or whatever you want to call it, I'm probably not using the right terms, the whatever, socialism, whatever it is, but I see these things and it's just like, wow, it's not even about those things. It's just about violence. There are people out there that just want to commit violence. And I think the 4 people that Kyle shot at, that's what they were doing. That's what they were out there for. They weren't out there because they cared about Jacob Blake. You probably asked them questions. They probably had no idea about any of that case, about anything that was happening. They were looking for things. This looks like a program. This is like a shadow government program here, where they want these riots. They want this stuff. And then they want Trump to comment on them. It's a weird 2020, ever since Trump got in, it was like, the volume on the violence on all this stuff that has been kind of simmering in my lifetime heated up to a boiling point. And man, I think they really wanted that kid to die. And I still think there are people that want him dead.
Oh yeah, and this is why I think whatever money he gets, maybe he should have some kind of security. I mean, maybe he already does, but yeah, because it's almost like a price on his head. I mean, in a sense. Yeah. So you wrote. Oh, I should put in here. Let me see what you wrote about this, about Rittenhouse. Let me see here. Okay. All right.
Yeah. There's a lot. And a lot of that, for that link, if you're posting that link, a lot of that was written, when this first happened. So I really this was just going to be a chapter in another book that I'm working on. And then once the trial came out, I started, taking notes, and I had about 3 notebooks of notes. And I'm like, you know what? I have enough for a book here. I'm just going to write a book pretty much about the whole trial. This is a beginner's book. This is not a book where there's going to be anything new. This is just a book to document what happened. A book that if you want your family or your friends, to hear the other side, because we've heard what the whole mainstream media says. That's the purpose of this book. And this book will be free. This will be a free PDF, just like all of my books. If you want a physical copy, a paper copy, that would be a whole nother thing. But if you just want to have something that you can just give to somebody and say, hey, have you looked at this? Obviously they're not going to spend that much time reading or watching the whole trial. So what I try to do is I try to condense this for researchers. The books that I write are for people that are researching these topics, to make it easy for you to get quotes, to get all of this stuff. And obviously people that have watched the trial, there's no need for them to even look at this stuff unless they need to go back for references, something like that. But we're living in the digital age. There's a book burning, there's a digital book burning that is going on. So I'm trying to get back to the physical books and say, you're going to have to physically burn this book if you want to stop me from putting this out.
Mm-hmm. We have a few minutes before the top of the hour break, but I just posted that your book about Rittenhouse it's still in the works. It's not quite completed. So
correct.
Correct. But it is by WordPress. I put that in there. Let's see, but you do have this one called 9/11. I'm going to put that in.
Yeah.
Put that here. I'm going to.
I've spent like 10 years writing that one.
I'm sure.
And
yeah.
that's another one that is just for researchers. So if you have some family, some friends who maybe have not heard about bombs going off in those buildings, or have not heard about some of the weird things, Building 7, some of those basic things, this is a great book to just kind of give to them. If they're looking for that view, if they just want to believe what the government said, and obviously they're not going to care. But if you're looking for somebody who just wants to get caught up, so I usually write the books that I would like to actually read. And if I can't find a book that I can read on the topic, I'm just going to write it.
Right. I just put that in the chat room, the 9/11 book. I'm going to give that to Nick here, so he can look at it later. And after the break here, Nick and maybe some other callers might want to ask you questions. But I'm just looking at other stuff on your bio here. I know sometimes tonight, for some reason, I don't know, I'm kind of asking you a lot of questions or speaking along with you. I usually kind of don't, but
that's great. I like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess it was the right night for this.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
I like that. Nobody wants to listen to me rant for that long. I like the back and forth.
Oh no, that's fine. Is that the music, Nick? Let me try to. Yeah, that is the music. Okay, so we got a break, Greg, for a couple of minutes at least. So maybe be mute until it's over. Until we come back on. So this is Noreen Helpa, Wild at Heart Roundtable Show. We've got Greg Fernandez Jr. with us. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Be evasive.
But that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth as opposed to fiction.
And Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, and there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, indicating that there were giants before the Nephilim.
And sons of God, plural. They weren't talking about Jesus coming down.
No, that's right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm Steve Crawford, host of Factor Theory Live. Join me every Sunday night from 10 p.m. till midnight Eastern Standard Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Check it out.
Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time and you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Lorian Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Galactic Interstellar Council on Revolution Radio Studio A, Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Join us as we traverse the starseed paradigm, as expressed in the time-space continuum that we know as the divine expression of love and light. Integrating this conscious unity into the galactic paradigm. So welcome all, both terrestrial beings and galactic beings as one. So be it. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
If you think for 1 second that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourselves. Because we know who they are and what they do. This is what they do, and we must fight back. You can torture us and bomb us. Fire is catching. And if we burn, you burn with us.
Good evening.
Are you awake yet? I hope. We've tried and we've tried for years and years to use passive resistance and loud voices to make a change. But time is over. Your governments around the world have no other goal than to decimate your entire existence at the hands of the bankers and the elites. The war is coming, and it's your choice to decide if you want to be a warrior or a victim. Denial is not a choice anymore. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the planet. Not giving up. Revolution Radio.
Well, welcome back to Noreen Hellbound's Wild at Heart Roundtable Show. Let me just adjust the volume here on this thing because I can't have it. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so, Greg, I saw you in chat room. Thank you for participating in chat room, by the way. Thank you. And I see that you said you like that song. Yeah, I like the Eagles too.
I love it.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles. Yeah, that takes me back.
No. I got to see Fleetwood Mac. Did you ever get to see Eagles?
I'm jealous. No, I'm jealous. I haven't. No.
Yeah, they were great. That was a great concert. So anyway, let's see. Yeah, I'm here in Southern California. And are you still here on the West Coast?
Yes. But, it's getting crazy here. I mean, Castro Valley, I've lived in Castro Valley my whole life. When these riots started happening back in 2020, it was the first time ever in Castro Valley, and Popsicle may know a little bit more about that, but, the first time ever in Castro Valley that I've seen where they were boarding up their businesses. These are small towns, a little biker town, and it grew into this really nice town, and they're boarding up businesses in 2020 after the, what did you call it? The jab. After the jab, all of that, after all that stuff started happening. And man, it was so sad because they were afraid of riots. And I mean, that stuff, it was like that stuff did not happen. It's happening everywhere. California is a tent city. Trump, I believe, was right when he said about some of these states where they are basically an S-hole. Yeah, I think that's what he called it. But San Francisco, man, I used to love going there as a kid. You can't go there now. You can't feel safe there now. It's horrible.
Now, did you just hear today in San Francisco they were highlighting on the news the what was it? I think a bunch of people, like a lot of people, more than 10, I don't know how many it was, went into some kind of, I think it was one of those designer stores, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then just started stealing. I mean, and then nothing happens. So you guys, we are, you United States Americans, we are living in anarchy right now. If you think about those kind of things being let go, okay? Now, some people might look at that and go, oh, that's terrible. But they're thinking, it can never happen where I live. No, it can happen anywhere, okay?
That's what they want.
Right now, I know, right now they're targeting, right? They are targeting, oh, thank you. They're targeting, what do you call it? The cities. Pretty soon, it's going to be targeting everywhere, okay? It is, you know what I mean? There's no reason why. I mean, well, yeah. If you target, like, I'm trying to think of, there's some areas, for example, there are some areas that, if you target it, you will be chased away, which it should be. I'm sorry, but that's the whole thing with this Rittenhouse thing. They really want people to be afraid of protecting themselves. That's the goal, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. No, you're
because
right on that.
They don't want you to have any kind of power or rights over your own life, right? It's the powers that want power over you. So, yeah.
Yep, and they use fear. They use all of these different tactics. There's businesses. I mean, after the whole COVID thing happened and everything, so many people were losing businesses, and then to have the riots and things like that on top of that. And we've seen this in some of the bigger cities, but yeah, you're totally right. They want, it's not just about, oh yeah, they're gonna, burn down these big cities in San Francisco. I've had friends that, have contacted me in the last couple of days, and they're in that area and everything. And it's like, it's like finally they only looked at the fact that this happened in a glitzy area in San Francisco, Louis Vuitton, whatever it was. I forget. Yeah, so it's like, okay, now it's a big thing, right? Now it's on the news. And I'm like, dude, this is happening in Walnut Creek. This is happening everywhere. I mean, this stuff is spreading, and it's spreading because these people who are doing this want us to know it. They want us to be fearful of it. And they're pretty much challenging us.
Well,
they're pretty much saying,
is the powers, the law, right, is told to stand down and let these people do this damage. So you know what? This really is not a good place that we're at right now. If the police are being threatened, right? Think about it. They're being really politically threatened, right? They're being told, well, you can't really arrest Black people anymore. Okay, and I'm being very general here. So if they're afraid to make arrests, right? Then what happens? The criminals get emboldened because they go, oh man, for the first time, no cop's going to be on my ass. They ain't going to arrest me. I'll just shout racism if they even dare put their finger on me. So I'm just going to go out to that store and just rob a bunch of purses. Seriously, this is the mentality. And by the way, if I wanted to take a whole bunch of purses and stuff, I might slap around a few people on the way down. Seriously, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is, or worse, rape or whatever, okay?
Right.
Do not think, you guys, that this can't happen, because the way that the media is humanity's enemy at this point, literally. Okay, they're conjoined twins to the politicians and thusly the globalists, right? With this agenda. So all these arms, all these institutions, the universities, the schools, everything, they're all infiltrated, compromised, and out to get, to let the criminals go and get us. They want to get us. This is their tool, their mechanism to get us, right? To harm us, to rob us, everything, okay, is this. Plus the jab, which is another factor. So yeah, it just goes on,
Yeah, it goes on and on. They're hitting us from so many different levels, and it's just like they want us to just give up, to give in. Well, we're not giving up, and we're not giving in. We'll always be here to stand and fight for what is right.
Yeah, yeah. Have you, I want to ask you, besides Bill Grant, have you heard much of our station? I mean, because you're like a new name to me, you know? You're like a very new name, so I'm actually looking you.
Yeah, I've been on with the past hosts in the past, so I kind of know, you got a really good chat room here, and kind of make sure that I mute myself when I'm not speaking, and during breaks and stuff like that. But yeah, I think what you guys are doing here is just awesome. So I'm glad to be on. This is a very popular platform here. And definitely covering so many different topics. So I'm always honored whenever I'm asked to be on here.
I found your face. Thank you. That's really a nice statement. I found your Facebook page, and I'm putting likes. I did a friend request, and I'm putting likes on your stuff. So, yeah. Okay, so you have been connected to the station before. That's cool. Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm looking at this. You got some good content. You have a lot of Rittenhouse content on here as well. Interesting.
Yeah, I actually had a page. I had a Kyle Rittenhouse page that Facebook shut down, and I haven't
really?
challenged it. Yeah, they shut it down a long time ago. But now that everything is coming out, now I'm like thinking, I wonder if I can get that back. The only reason why I created the page and why I created any of my pages is because I use them for research. So I find something, I post it there, and then I can always, once I start writing my books or start writing things, I can always go back and take that. Once I started doing, and this happened with the whole Trump voter fraud thing too. My main YouTube channel was actually taken down because of voter fraud, because I was posting, all I did was post Donald Trump speeches and I would get strikes and they would take it down. And finally it's like, boom, okay. And I've had my YouTube channel, for a long time. So but I don't really care. I'll start more, and I had a backup channel. Always have backups, right? Always be on multiple platforms. I'd love to do more on Rumble and things like that, but I think YouTube and Facebook is pretty much, that's where I'm at now. Still staying there, or Meta, right? They're going to call it Meta now, but it's whatever. It's still the same thing. That's a whole other issue.
Oh, geez. Yeah, Rumble. Okay, so how long have you been on Rumble?
I just started on Rumble with the whole David Crowley case. I started a Rumble channel so that I could start posting the David Crowley stuff there. I have a Rumble channel with my name, Greg Fernandez Jr. Just for everything else that is not related to the David Crowley case. So I have two Rumble channels. I don't really, I'm not the best in social media and all that stuff. So right now it's kind of more of a backup thing, but I'm hoping to kind of veer away from some of the other platforms, or to just kind of build something up there. But I just feel like there's a lot more freedom on Rumble that I can have, and I started because the YouTube and Facebook were not letting me post anything about Kyle Rittenhouse or about Donald Trump or voter fraud.
Don't you think that is so? I mean, we've come to the point in this country where normal topics of various types are just censored. I mean, that's how bad it's become. I mean, really. Okay.
Yeah, and if I would have known that then, I would have never joined Facebook. If Facebook was not like that back then, YouTube was not like that. If I knew like it was like this, I wouldn't have joined it at all.
Where are you on Rumble? Let me try to find you here on Rumble.
So two things on Rumble. If you go on Rumble, look for The Gray Stage. That's my David Crowley channel. I started just posting things about the David Crowley case, and I'm updating more things there. And then Greg Fernandez Jr. Should be my other Rumble, and there's maybe only a couple. There's like a couple of Trump videos, a couple of voter fraud videos, and maybe some of the Kyle Rittenhouse videos there.
Okay, let me look for you in Rumble, because I don't like their, it's a BitChute has horrible search engine, but okay.
I know, right?
Yeah, really bad.
So Rumble, because I'm a big Dan Bongino fan, so I've been following him, and I know he's a part owner or something like that in Rumble. So I said, I'll check it out. I'll give it a try. But
I see.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm still not, I'm still learning the whole Rumble thing. YouTube was just so easy because, you posted there. Every smart TV, every Roku, whatever it is, they all have the YouTube. So people, it's a good idea, even if it's a backup, to be on the YouTube. And I've looked at your YouTube channel, and I'm glad that you have that. And I did subscribe to your channel.
Oh, thank you. It's really, I mean, no, because of my friend Nick here, it's what it is because of him. Because check it out, okay? I'm very average when it comes to technology, and my computer situation where I live, the bandwidth is very slow. Okay, it's not good. So for me to like upload videos and stuff just takes too long. So I let Nick here, do that. And I told him while you're at it, just spruce it up, So what I did is I had not touched that channel in a long time, right? I've been on the station for about almost 8 years, something like that. Maybe.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. About 7-8 years, but my YouTube channel for the station, Wild at Heart, was just not active for a long time. So he kind of revamped it for me, and that's why I asked you for those photos, because we'll probably create a little slideshow, for this show, and I'll send you the link when it's all put on video. So.
Awesome.
So yeah, but I don't have a lot of subscribers right now because I started over or revamped it. So I'm trying to get more people to subscribe. So by the way, which is weird because I never, I should promote my my channel more.
Yeah, you should.
On here, which is really weird that I don't. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's up to my channel. It's YouTube, which is, this is really, thank you for subbing to, my channel, but really I don't promote it as much as I should.
Yeah, you definitely should. There's good stuff there, and I just was kind of browsing it. It's like, this is awesome. That's what YouTube is for. That's
right.
That's what it was meant for, is for people like us to post our stuff, to post our videos, not to be censored because we think, because we have a different view than whatever Google wants to have.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me see. No, but I'm glad you're with Rumble too.
Yeah, Rumble. I do want to do more on Rumble. I want to start doing live things. I know, because Rumble, the weird thing about Rumble is there's a paid version. So I think you can only go live if you do the paid version or something like that, which I'm not interested in doing at this point. I'm really trying to do as much free stuff. There's so many free platforms out there. But yeah, Rumble is definitely kind of my, I'm looking for that to be my YouTube alternative at some point here.
I see.
Yeah, but I don't know how that's going to work out. So we'll see how all of that goes. But I pretty much know if any videos get flagged on YouTube, I'll put them on my Rumble channel. So that's why my Kyle Rittenhouse video, the first one that I did, it's about maybe an hour and a half, maybe two hours long. Facebook or YouTube, it has been shadow banning that, and they make it really hard for anybody to find it. They make it hard to stream it or anything like that. So I've had some of those issues, but it's just like, what are they scared of? They don't want to talk about voter fraud. They don't want to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse. They just want you to pretty much say, this is what it is. And it's probably when you were kind of what you were doing when you said you were at your mom's house and kind of in the other room, kind of listening, kind of half listening. And it's just and I've been at my grandparents' house doing the same thing. And I'm like, well, this is why they think the way that they think. Look at what the news is telling them. My grandparents grew up, they trusted the news media to tell them what the truth was.
It's one thing if some have, comprehension issues or whatever. That's one thing. But, these idiots, no offense, on my Facebook saying all this, I'm like, you guys got to be kidding me. It's almost like they wanted him to be a bad person, right? Calling him a bitch, psychopath. I'm like, This is all projection, but what does it say about them? Right. But that's dangerous, see, because it's very dangerous, because then what happens is that when the mainstream gets to people and gets them to think like this, then, people will be at war with each other. This is what they want. And they don't see that, right? They're not seeing it.
That's right. And it's sad the way that, I mean, a good person. I've known many good people, and I look at some of their thought process, and I'm just like, of course, the first thing I go to, what is your news source?
Yeah.
I mean, like that. Let's start there, like, because I love my family. I don't want to argue with my family. I don't want to fight with them. And sometimes you have to be that bigger person and say, you know what, they believe whatever they want to. I don't want, because these news media, all of this stuff is meant to separate us from our family, to get us to argue with each other.
Yes. Nick is on with me. I don't know if he has any comments to Greg here.
Hi, yeah, Greg. It's been a pleasure to listen to you and get acquainted with your perspective. You're spot on a lot of things. I'm more than happy to sit in the background on this trial thing, because last week Noreen mentioned it, and that was the first I even heard of it. Unbelievable, that they've been hyping it so much for, I guess, all year. I don't know, since it happened. I don't know. And so it's comforting to me to know that kind of hype. I'm insulated from that.
Is it because you're in Canada, but you don't watch TV, so I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't watch TV. I do research on nutrition, on communication, on how to get people to stop plugging into this stuff. So I guess I practice what I preach, And so one thing that's a hallmark of a show trial, of a psyops, is, when a real event happens, so it's in the news, oftentimes it doesn't even make it outside local news, but when it does go national, they'll talk about it for a couple of weeks and then it goes away. If it's a psyop, oh my gosh, it's, week after week after month, that's all you hear, right? And so that's the hallmark. That's what tells me that, paying attention to this kind of thing is the point, is what takes our eye off of what matters and puts it on whatever event they cook up for us. They also, if it's a real trial, they're not going to publish it. They're not going to, let you actually watch the proceedings, because, then it would become obvious how they just steamroll and railroad people. And, the fact that they put this on the air for everybody to watch kind of told me that obviously he was going to be found innocent, if it had been a real thing, then they would have absolutely buried it, and you wouldn't hear a thing from him. You wouldn't hear him making books, because that's what they do, is they don't let the victim of these systems actually say anything. They'll paraphrase what you say, usually twisting it and pretend you said something you didn't. And so I think what's important is to, look at the details and kind of present it in a way that helps people learn from it and helps people recognize what is a psyop and what isn't. I'm done.
Right,
over.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's a great way to pretty much put it. I mean, that's a very balanced view, I would say, of it, and keeping an open mind towards it, and also recognizing, what you've seen in the past with, what signs that you look for psyops. There's things that, those are great tips, I think.
Yeah, I think Nick, he really avoids the news. I don't watch it either. I happen to watch it when I'm in the room over there, but I get a lot of my sources, as many of us do, online, or not through the literal brainwashed media machine. I mean, we're privy to it, but we're not we're exposed to it, I should say, but we're not we don't get hooked into it like a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, if this trial wasn't on, if it wasn't live streamed, I don't know how big this would be. I think the live streaming actually worked in Kyle's favor. If it wasn't live streamed, can you imagine letting the whole media just kind of say whatever they wanted to, and the whole it kind of, I know this is a bad example, the Jesse Ventura case, where the guy claimed that Jesse Ventura sucker punched him in the bar and all that stuff. That wasn't live streamed, so I only had to go on what the people that were sitting in the courtroom, what they were tweeting. That's really it. I couldn't go on anything, but to have it like this was pretty interesting. And it's funny that you mentioned live streaming, and that means that it's a psyop, because it reminds me of the O.J. Simpson trial, where it was I was like, well, wait a minute, but O.J. was found innocent too.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now we're not going to see the Maxwell trial, right? We're not going to see that, and I've heard many reasons because it's a federal. That's the one thing that I've heard. I don't know if this is accurate. It's a federal trial, but it's also up to the judge too, from what I'm hearing. So I don't know how many live streams this judge has actually done. Live streaming is new too, I would say, and we're living in a digital age now too. So I think we have to make sure that we're not comparing pre-digital age trials and all that stuff to post-digital age. It seems like there's definitely some correlation there, but there are differences there too. It's like now we live in this age where that's not all that we have. We don't just have these people, these media channels, right? We don't have just the Rodney King footage from a VHS tape that shows that he was beaten that we can look at. Everybody has cameras now. So it's like media. When we talk about media, we have to remember we are media. We are the real media. We're what the media should be. So the digital age can be bad. I've seen the worst of it, and I've seen the best of it. And I think in this trial, I've seen the best of it, because without all of those videos that everybody was streaming and posting, I don't know if Kyle would have gotten off.
No, I agree. You're right. Huh? Isn't that an interesting question? You're right. I think that, but it seemed like they tried everything in their power to make this, this verdict not be what it is, right?
Yeah, it kind of seemed like that it's like a parallel world. So it's like there's like this one world that is like, okay, Kyle is guilty. Then you have this other one, no, Kyle is not guilty. And when the trial ended, the worlds merged, and they merged to this clash. And I think what these powers that be, whatever you want to call them, I call them the devil, you can call them Satanists, you can call them whatever you think they are, they were hoping for something else, and they did not get it. Kenosha was pretty quiet after this, up until this thing happened. That could be why this driving thing happened here.
That's what I'm thinking. That?
You think so?
Yeah, I do. That's too coincidental.
Correct. Yeah, I think the same thing. Yeah.
I didn't even check how far that city was from Kenosha. I should go.
It's about an hour. It's about 1 hour from there.
It's in that general area still, right?
Yeah. And remember this, they keep, people are liberals or whatever you want to call it. I hate those labels, by the way, but because I know good people on all sides and everything. But, some people were getting triggered because they kept calling it a Christmas parade. But it's like, do you understand this parade's history? Do you understand why they call it that? Do you understand anything about that? And I mean, it's really weird, this whole thing. The guy, what's the name? Daryl. I forget his last name, but I know his first name is Daryl. I know my first name is, but he basically, he's running over these people, he's running over these kids, and now we have at least 5 deaths, right? From what I've heard, and he ran over 20, 30 people or something like that. And I'm just sitting here wondering, why? What was the whole point of that? To say that you were running from the cops or something like that? Come on, nobody's buying that. It's just really, really odd stuff. The guy, how is it that all of these people that are getting out of jail are doing all of these crazy things that just happen to be part of something that could be part of a bigger psyop. I mean, some of that stuff, the fact that a lot of these people are just getting out of jail is one reason why I would lead towards some of this at some level being a psyop or being a plan, what I call a program, part of a computer program, basically, because it's like, okay, look, we're going to get you out, but here's what you're going to do for us. And it's all just to kind of stoke these flames so that the common person will subconsciously, if not consciously, they will associate what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse to this. And then subconsciously, they may even blame Kyle for this and say, well, this guy did this because he was frustrated because of this. So he ran over people because Kyle got off. I mean, it can go on and on and on about that. And it's just like, we have to get back to those basics. The books that I write, I don't write conspiracy books. I write about the basic. People may think that they are, and they're fine to label it whatever you want. But, I really try to stick to the facts. And that's why once this trial came out and I could document the trial live in real time, that's so rare. Like I had to. I felt like it was my duty to even if nobody ever reads this book, even if nobody ever downloads it or anything. I want my family. I write this book. I write this stuff for my family. I write this stuff for people who really care. For people, if things get scrubbed, if the whole internet drops down, things like that, the worst case, whatever. If you're looking for something, if you're like, hey, I'd love for you, I want to tell you about Kyle Rittenhouse. Well, here's a book that you can download right now, and you can get all of that factual stuff. So I try to leave a lot of my views out of it and really try to just focus on the things that I learned in journalism, in junior high, in high school. These are simple, basic things that a lot of these journalists nowadays, and that's why a lot of people are saying journalism is dead. I don't believe it, but I understand why they say it, because look at what these people are doing. These are not journalists.
No, they're propagandists.
Yeah.
They're the weird thing is that you wonder, is this just for the money? I think a lot of it kind of is, but then I wonder, are they really down with the cause too? They're probably a little bit of both, right? I mean,
could be. When you talk about people that are making movies, the movie business, and then you look at the media, and all of a sudden, for me, a big, I wouldn't say an eye-opening thing, but a factual thing that I could really prove and really show is like, look at the way that they treated Donald Trump. Look at all of these people that came together against Donald Trump, and look at how they feel about all of these people that are raping women, that are trafficking people, that are being caught with children. And they're all against Donald Trump. To me, that's a big sign. I'm not saying that Trump is whatever your view is on that, but I'm just saying it put a big spotlight for me on a lot of these people, and to say like, okay, wow, there really is something going on here. This whole Maxwell trial is going to be a big deal, and I hope that we do have some real journalists that are able to relay the accurate information to us, because we're not going to get video the way that we did with Kyle. And maybe that's part of their plan too, to say, well, look, they live stream Kyle's, how come they're not live streaming this? Well, ask the judge and learn about what the whole laws are on this. But definitely, if there's any case that should be live streamed, it should be this one. We're talking about, this really gets to the heart, from my view, to the heart of the real problem in this country, a problem that I've seen firsthand with these pedos that are trying to run this country, that want to rule this world. It all goes back to me, to Satan. It all goes back to the devil, sick people, and they need to be we need to put a big spotlight on them.
Yeah. I hope this Maxwell trial does do something, but here again, with all the odd things going on, we don't know. We don't know if this is sort of like I hate using that term psyop again, but who knows? We don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a good, you're right. We don't know.
We don't know. And with her case, it could be another way to manipulate people. See, because getting back to Rittenhouse, there's so many ways. Even if it's a mock, not a mock trial, but even if that was staged or whatever was going on with that, or if it's a, psyop or whatever, that the intent of that whole thing, okay, even though he was found innocent and even if they say, okay, justice was served, fine, of course. But the message still is about white males, okay, sorry, this is what it is. White males should never defend themselves. That's really the message of this whole thing. Still, regardless of the outcome. So the Ghislaine Maxwell one, we got to think, what is the agenda behind what the verdict will be, right? How are they going to display this trial to the public, as you mentioned, right? So all these factors, at this point, we can speculate that all these big trials and incidences, they're so again, it's not about the reality of what happens to the victims. It's more like how the victims and the perpetrators and all these people thereof are they're used as tools for some kind of means, and that's really the weird thing about nowadays, this.
Well, yeah, it's like every rape victim, right? They're the first thing that they do is they wonder, they think that they did something wrong. And when you look at the Kyle Rittenhouse case, it's like they wanted us to think that he did something wrong. There's some similarities, some weird similarity. Kyle Rittenhouse is an underage child, and you have this other thing where we're talking about underage children being trafficked and, all that. And it's such a strange time that we live in now. And people are so stressed out and just so frustrated with life in general.
Sure.
The suicides are up, and man, I just, people just, don't fear these things. Don't be afraid of these things. We need to face these things. We need to Kyle Rittenhouse this stuff, man. Confront it.
Well, another factor too, what was I going to say about this whole thing is, man, now I forgot what I was going to say. It's not
I'm sorry, I probably cut you off.
No, don't even know. It's not about you. You got me actually going on an interesting thought pattern about this. Something to do with, okay, here's the thing, you guys, is different. We've always had trials. We've always had, bad trials throughout history, okay? But I think the difference with this one is that Americans have been used to, more or less, the justice system for the most part, working for them, right? And this one actually did still work in the end. But now we're witnessing, because of technology, the level of manipulation is definitely bigger, okay? Because 200 years ago, okay, even if you had a famous trial, you didn't have all this media, nothing, not even close, computers or nothing, right? No internet. So now you could definitely tweak the brains of people that are not really looking at what's going on. And that makes me want to segue into, one of my Facebook friends that was saying, Rittenhouse is bad and all this. He, I'm not mentioning his name, and I doubt he's listening, okay? But I tried to tell him, you were talking about child sex trafficking. Well, I wasn't talking to him about that per se, but I was telling him about, because he wants to argue with me, okay? So I told him, somehow we got into this thing of, Greg, that throughout the United States, they're doing inappropriate sexual education for the children and, students, right? We know about this. And, you heard about the girl that was raped by the transgender, there's all kinds of, and, kids being read excerpts from adult, material in the classroom, right? You've heard about these stories where parents are complaining to school boards, right? About what's happening to their kids, which is a form of abuse, right? In a sense. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. But then this person, he was wanting to argue with me more than me with him. I walked away from the table, actually, because he told me that, well, how do you know those parents aren't lying? I go, are you kidding? Wait, are you joking? You're saying, oh, well, where's the proof? How do you know they're not lying? I'm like, well, why would they lie? What is the reasoning for them to lie? And another thing too is I basically said to him in a message that, what? It's almost like you're you're like denying a rape victim. You're like saying to a rape victim, oh, you weren't raped, you're a liar, prove it. Okay, and he got mad at me. He was like, don't call me names. I didn't react to him, okay, because I'm thinking, I'm sorry, but, I'm going to call you up for what you are. You're such a coward. Not a coward. I don't know what his problem is. He wants to defend the bad, right? To me, that's just not acceptable. Yeah, I mean, it just isn't.
Is he one of those people that just has to be contrarian? Like everything you say, he just has to find something to disagree with it?
That's part of it. That's part of it. He's a contrarian. That's why I had to walk out of the, my other friend was there and he had to go to work. So I left after 5 minutes. I'm like, forget it. But yeah, he's a contrarian. But he's also like this bizarre, like left field person too. But worse than that, some of these philosophies make people mean. Because why would this guy say, oh, how do you know parents are lying? What kind of comment is that? Parents lying? You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
Sounds like a jerk. Oh,
no, I know. And that's, go ahead.
No. I just was saying Bill Grant was asking me to ask you, which is a good point, to talk a little bit about your updates on the David Crowley case. Okay, there you go.
Oh yeah, so I mean we're learning, more. We have hopefully we'll have some more details about the David Crowley case. I mean, if people don't know, David Crowley was a filmmaker. He was a soldier. He made a trailer in 2012 that was very popular called Gray State. And in 2014, or actually in 2015, January 17, 2015, his body was found. He was about 29 years old. His wife was 28. His body was found. His wife's body was found. Their 5-year-old child's body was found. David was accused of killing his wife and his 5-year-old child before taking his own life. So I wrote the whole book, The Gray Stage, that kind of covers all of the basics back then. Now, obviously, there's been, like Bill says, there's been a lot that has come out since then that we've learned that has just further shown us why David Crowley is not guilty and cannot be proven guilty. And so we've kind of been focused on a lot of those things. There's been people that have made a fake police document. There's been just a lot of weird things that have happened. There's some updates that I can't really talk about yet that I hope that we can share those very, very soon. But it's like the more that we stay on this David Crowley case, the more that we kind of realize like how easy it is for you to say, well, this guy committed suicide. He had PTSD. He was working on a film and he snapped and he killed his family. We're talking about a daughter that had her arm ripped off. Her entire arm was missing. His wife's hands were missing. One of David's hands was missing.
Oh my goodness.
And there was a dog that they blamed the dog on all of this, but they never test the dog feces. So they never have any evidence that any of the things that they say David did, they never have any evidence of those speculations. And this is a military soldier. This guy served from, I believe, 2004, 2005 up until 2009 during the height of 2 major wars. Came back, was working on a script, a very powerful script that was going to talk about a lot of the things that he saw that were coming. And there are some similarities to the COVID thing that we're seeing here, the police state, the riots, all of that stuff. So he was way ahead of the game in a lot of these different topics. And so, he was working on a TV series, The Gray State. Gray State was going to be made into a TV series. I labeled my book, I called it The Gray Stage, because I do believe if you look at the crime scene photos, it looks like a staged crime scene. It does not look like just a random, like this guy snapped and really killed people. It looks like a staged crime scene, like somebody set up this crime scene so that the police would walk in, think David Crowley is guilty, and would say, boom, that's it. They missed 2 very important bullets. They have never found a bullet with blood tied to David Crowley. So anyway, so I wrote this whole book on that. Like, people can download that right now. It is a free book. So much research has been done on it.
The hyperlink didn't come out right.
Yeah, I would say if you just go to if you go to thegraystage.wordpress.com, you can find all of the documents that we have. You can download all the documents. You can download crime scene photos. We have a crime scene video that just came out recently. We have the 911 call that just came out, where the person who called the cops, is basically, she's already speculating that this was a murder or a suicide. I don't know how many 911 calls you've heard, but I've never heard a 911 call where somebody is calling in saying, hey, this could be a murder or a suicide, and it looks like the dog may have eaten these bodies. I mean, there's some very weird things that happen in this case. So it gets very, very weird. But I would say if anybody wants to learn, start with the book. We do have a monthly podcast every month. We do have a podcast. So on the first of every month, wherever you listen to podcasts, just search for The Gray Stage, and you will find that. You'll find our podcast, and check it out. Whatever your view is. I mean, our goal is to pretty much say, hey, look, these are what the documents say. This is what they say David did. Here are the facts of it. And, I don't believe that any of the facts prove that David Crowley did any of this. So why are the police, the BCA, so many agencies that are involved in this? Why? And family, friends, like all these people who were working with David, all of a sudden they turn on him and they accuse him of this heinous crime. There was a Netflix documentary made in 2017 called A Gray State. And so it is a hit piece on David Crowley. They just want him to be guilty. So the same way that the media treated Kyle Rittenhouse, before Kyle Rittenhouse, there was a David Crowley, and the media treated him that same way. Oh, the guy's guilty. He went crazy. He was a military guy. He liked guns. He was into conspiracies. He thought there was a police state coming, et cetera, et cetera. This guy was a soldier who served for this country. In this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. How do we have where so many people in our media and so many people, so many cops and all of these things, where they just say that this guy is guilty? There's no way. So that's what my book kind of focused on, is without giving too much of my own view on it. I do give you some at the very end in the final chapter, but the book is really focused on, okay, from the day that the bodies are found, who found it, what do the police documents say, what do all these documents say? That's really the whole focus. Everything is sourced. I got 10 pages of sources. And even if you don't want to read my book, if you go to thegraystage.wordpress.com, you can download all of the documents for yourself, and you can decide whatever you think is true. But in this country, you are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
And David was guilty within 24 hours of finding his body and his wife's body and his 5-year-old daughter's body. They were already saying he was guilty.
Wow.
24 hours, if not less. And we could do a whole show on that sometime, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the irony is Kyle Rittenhouse, the prosecution filed charges against him like 48 hours after he was arrested.
Yeah, which is weird because Kyle Rittenhouse turned himself in. The police weren't even looking for him. Within 1 hour of those shootings, Kyle Rittenhouse turned himself in, and they still were making it out like, he didn't turn himself in. He turned himself in. He did everything that the courts asked. He spent over 80 days in juvenile hall. That is difficult. I spent maybe like 1 week, if that. That was hell. It was hell. Anybody who has ever spent any time in solitary confinement, I don't care if it's juvenile or if it's jail, you understand how hellish that is. This is not a place where they rehabilitate people. This is where they make criminals.
Yeah. I think it's just horrible. I mean, terrible. It's just terrible. So looking at here, yeah, I put the links in the chat for your work. See, we have about 10 minutes left of the show. Yeah, wow, you did a lot of work. Have you been on Coast to Coast to discuss this book? Sounds like something they would be interested in. But,
No, I haven't. No, really, to be honest with you, I don't know that a lot of people even know about this case. I know Alex Jones. I was a big fan, and I kind of started wavering away from Alex Jones. And when this David Crowley case came out, pretty much showed me Alex Jones is not covering it. He doesn't care about this. Is a slam dunk case. The alternative media should have been all over this case back in 2015. If they were looking for something, this was it. This was the slam dunk case to say, look, they are accusing this soldier, this United States soldier, of a heinous crime. They're all under 30 years old. Can you believe that? A 5-year-old child, and we're not going to even look into this and investigate it. So my view is that a lot of people just do not know about this case. And hopefully if they did, they would actually look into this. So that was another reason why I wrote this book. I am about to release this book to the global stage. I have not done that yet. Right now, the only place, if you want to buy a physical copy, is if you go to my website. There is a link there and you can buy the physical copy. But within the next couple weeks, maybe another week or two, this will be, wherever you go to buy books digitally, you'll be able to find this book there. So the message is the purpose is just to get the book out, just to reach as many people as possible. After the Netflix film came out, it was like, okay, I needed to make this book because we needed the other side. We have been hearing for 3 years, David Crowley is guilty, and here's why. We asked for the evidence. There was no evidence. With the Kyle Rittenhouse case, at least we asked for the evidence, and the trial, this judge said, yes, I'm going to give you, you're going to get this lifetime. What this judge did, Judge Schroeder did, is what I couldn't have asked for anything more. What he did was so awesome, to just let us all look at this and decide for ourselves, and let obviously the jury is going to decide. But we got to see more. We got to see things that the jury was not privy to. We got to see where they were talking about what should be included and what the jury says, what they should judge on and what they shouldn't. So even the judge was giving us, who were watching it in live time, we were getting more than the jury was able to actually view. Or I don't know if they were able to view it or whatever, but they could not say, well, okay, Kyle is guilty because of this. You know what I mean? They were given certain guidelines. We weren't. We were given everything.
Right. Do you think with this Crowley case that who did the actual murder, in your opinion?
Can't say. And I think the biggest thing is to not, that's phase 2, right? Mm-hmm. Phase 1 is to make sure that it gets out there that David Crowley is not guilty. What the police, and this is where their conclusion, they decided David Crowley is guilty because they could not prove anybody else was guilty. Wow. I don't want to do what they did. Now, here's the other thing. They did not look for anybody else because within 24 hours, they have their suspect. In 24 hours, they're not looking for anyone else, at least publicly, maybe privately, hopefully.
They are covering for somebody?
I think a lot of the police that were there that day, I think the first responders did a great job. I think a lot of the investigators did a great job. I think at some level, it got shut down. Similar to September 11th, similar to any of these other things that we see, it gets shut down. I don't believe that with the Kyle Rittenhouse case too. I don't believe somebody said, "Hey, we need to prosecute this guy," right? I think somebody was told, "No, you need to prosecute this guy." That's why it was given to Thomas Binger, who was an assistant DA, not the DA. The DA didn't prosecute this case himself. He gave it to the assistant DA. So it's kind of those things where it's kind of like people are given orders. That is their job, and it's kind of like, okay, that's it. With the David Crowley case, I really think that a lot of the boots on the ground in this case understand exactly what we're talking about. That, wait a minute, there's no way. You guys don't have anything to prove him guilty. That's why he has not been proven guilty. That's why there's so little evidence to show why anyone would believe David Crowley is guilty. Yet some people still believe it, and the media, the mainstream media, including the New New Yorker, they all bought into it. And so that's why some people are like, when you talk about PSYOPs, have Nick have him look into this case. It could be some major PSYOPs with the David Crowley case
like
here.
It does sound like it.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times, and I'm not trying to say these cops involved with this case are guilty, but makes me think of other cases, which I'll go into another time, like the Black Dahlia, which looks to me like that was a cover-up too. Sounds like
Absolutely.
the Crowley case is a cover-up, you know. So, yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell and that whole thing, God, you know. We have a few minutes left, so, yeah, you've been a great guest, and I'll have you on again, especially to update anything, right, or even to talk more in depth about, you know, these cases, your books, because you know what you've been talking about tonight with your publications and your theories, you know, they can be applied to so much, right? I mean, like they're very it's interesting, you know, it's really interesting and very broad, and it can be applied, and I think that people can see that and go, wow, you know, that's really amazing. But let me see here. Yeah,
I
you
mean,
should. Yeah.
We could probably spend a whole show just on the whole David Crowley case, and I could probably walk you through a lot of the strange things that have happened with that case, with bullets, casings, and bullets found a couple days later. A bullet shows up, rolls out of a carpet, and then 1 month later, there's another bullet that is found in the attic. There's a bullet hole in the ceiling that nobody sees for 1 month. Very strange stuff with the David Crowley case. David Crowley is actually right-handed. The gun is found next to his left hand. There's an open knife. I sent you that photo, but there's so many weird things with the David Crowley case. I'm sure we could do a whole show on that.
Yeah, from the beginning of what happened, and yeah, it just because I think I've heard of it, but I didn't hear much about it. I mean, you might be one of the few people really writing in depth about it, huh? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, I'm the only one who's written a book on it.
Wow.
I do hope other people do. I know, you know, a lot of people I think are just, like I said, there's just a lot of, you know, life is tough. There's so many different cases, right? So there's so many different things. So it's like we get, you know, we have a justice group. We have a Facebook group called Justice for David Crowley and Family. We get new members all of the time. So join us on Facebook, and we're always updating things, but we get so many new members that have never heard about this case, that are just learning. So we're working on we're working on a lot of new videos. My friend Crypt Rick, who is in this chat room too, you know, he's helped me kind of get the whole message out. And
okay, listen, the music is heading in for our conversation.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Revolution